don't think it can happen to you.
The hit-and-run chase in California, a motorcycle rider witnessing a driver slam into several cars and then speeding away.
It can happen to you within seconds, a blink of an eye.
Tonight about the man suspected of killing a woman in a hit-and-run and his plan to evade justice.
When you take your eyes off the road for just seconds, when you're driving your car, oh, yes, it can happen to you. See, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. When the sands of time will run out within your hourglass.
New at 10, a hit and run caught on video, and now a teenager and his family are looking for the driver who took off.
He was a victim of a distracted driver hitting the road while riding his motorcycle going 65 miles per hour. He nearly lost his life. Now on a crusade to help save lives and prevent someone else from becoming a victim, the creator of DistractedDriversBusted.com and now the host of this podcast, it's Howard Drescher.
Okay, I did it again, didn't I? I did it again. I told you that I was going to try to do more podcast shows on my last show, and yet I have failed on that. I feel like I've done 3 or 4 shows in the month of May. And I said I wanted to do more. Unfortunately, I have been getting sick lately, and I'm just not able to do the shows. And so when I do get an opportunity to do the show, I'm going to try to reach out and do more shows. I feel I wasted the whole month of May in not doing enough shows. This is the 11th show of the year. And according to my records in the past years, by this date this year, or by this date every year in the past couple of years, I've had 40 or 50 shows done. I have really dropped off. Now, I'm not going to say that there's a reduced number of crashes and DUIs. That's why I'm not doing the shows. It's just on me. I have been sick, and I apologize for that. And I know it's kind of hard for me to get my stuff going, but I still want to continue to keep doing shows when I have the opportunity. I am your host, Howard Drescher, the creator of DistractedDriversBusted.com, and of course now this podcast show. You can follow me on Twitter at DistractedDBTV, at DistractedDBTV, and of course on Facebook, DistractedDB. And you can get the shows on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Amazon, and TuneIn. Just type in the keyword DistractedDB. And I want to thank Gina for doing my show opening for me. And I would be remiss if I didn't take a few moments to thank all our military men and women. I've had friends that have been in the military, and as you know, I was a 20-year Marine in the United States Marine Corps. Served 20 years. I've had friends that I've served with that are no longer here. I do take time out to think about them. I do take time out to think about what this day means to the ones that we've lost, the one who's actually paid the ultimate sacrifice, and the ones who did retire and then eventually passed on. And I do think about them quite a bit. And today is no different than any other day. I do think about all our young men and women, whether, the past, present, and future, the ones that are going to be, the ones that are serving now. These are trying times. These are times that, you want to take and reflect. And I do happen to go up to Camp Pendleton every now and then. I do see a lot of young men and women up there serving proudly. Every now and then I do happen to talk to them, just ask them how they're doing, what kind of job do they have, and I thank them for their service. And I think each and every one of us would do that. I think it would make a much easier time for our young men and women. And today is one of those days that I sit back and I reflect on the ones that are no longer with us. And I want to thank each and every one of you for doing what you do. Because I was you, and I am one of you. Thank you. All right. So you're listening to DistractedDriversBusted.com, the podcast show. This is show number 11. And I got 2 stories from KTLA Channel 5 here in Los Angeles and one from ABC 15 out in Arizona. And over the last couple of weeks, I've been altering my times going to work. Sometimes I'll go early in the morning. Sometimes I'll go midday. I drive home later at night when I go in later, obviously. And I find that people are still being rude out there when they're behind the wheel. Every now and then you'll see somebody who, actually turns their signal on and as they pull in front of you. I've seen people where they're riding bumper to bumper, moving left and right, trying to zigzag. You got 4 lanes going in the same direction. How fast do you want to go? How fast do you want to get to work? Then get your ass up earlier and drive to work earlier. Don't be tailgating. Don't be pushing people on the side of the road. It is rude. It is obnoxious. And quite honestly, it is mostly dangerous. And it may not be you, but somebody like you will end up hurting somebody. You're going to end up killing somebody, if not yourself. There's too many lives right now that are being ripped apart based on the stories that I'm talking about today and the stories that I've talked about in the past. And I'm sure what I'm still going to continue to talk about, because I know I've been out for a couple of weeks while I was sick. But don't you think that I wasn't paying attention to the news. I know exactly what has been going on. And quite honestly, it's really disturbing that hit and runs, DUIs, cars crashing into stores, car crashes into a home, wipes out somebody's home because they were speeding. They can't navigate slow enough to make the turn. It happens each and every day. And I've challenged each and every one of you before in the past, sit down and watch your local news. Watch your NBC Nightly News or CBS News late at night, whatever the case might be. If there's a night that they do not talk about, a DUI, hit and run, high-speed chase, something dealing with an automobile crash, then you should be amazed. But 90% of the time, they're going to talk about those kinds of crashes. And somebody either lost their lives or hurt, and it's very, very disturbing. All right, you're listening to DistractedDriversBusted.com, the podcast show. I am your host, Howard Drescher. When we come back, I have a story for you from KTLA Channel 5 here in Los Angeles. And to be perfectly honest with you, I should have done a couple of these stories just a little bit sooner. But again, I've been sick. Hopefully I'm a lot better now. I can do these shows more frequently because believe you me, I have a lot of IMs and DMs asking me, where are you at? We miss your shows. I'll get to that and much more when we come back.
You're listening to the DistractedDrivers.com podcast. We'll be right back.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have arrived in Philadelphia. Local time is 3:05 p.m. and the temperature is 67 degrees. At this time, you are now free to use your cellular devices.
You know that feeling when you get to turn your phone on after the plane lands? You can have that feeling every time you drive. Make sure your cell phone is stowed away whenever you are behind the wheel.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Wake up and text. Text and eat. Text and catch the bus. Text and miss your stop. Wait. Text and be late to work.
Sorry, I'm late.
Text and work. Text and pretend to work. Text and act surprised when someone calls you out for not working.
Who, me?
Text and meet up with a friend you haven't seen in forever.
Hi.
Oh, hey.
Text and complain that they're on their phone the whole time. Text and listen to them complain that you're on your phone the whole time. text and whatever. But when you get behind the wheel, give your phone to a passenger. Put it in the glove box. Just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Now, back to the DistractedDrivers.com podcast.
All right, welcome back to DistractedDriversBusted.com, the podcast show. I'm your host, Howard Drescher, the creator of DistractedDriversBusted.com, and of course now this podcast show. You can follow me on Twitter at DistractedDBTV, at DistractedDBTV, and of course on Facebook, it's DistractedDB. And just to let you know, you can get all the shows in the past and the ones that we're currently doing now and what we're going to be doing on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Amazon, and TuneIn. Just type in the keyword DistractedDB, and you can get all those shows there. And I thank all those platforms for carrying my show as long as they've been. And I want to thank all the listeners and the followers from not only here in America. You know, each state is pretty much representing me or listening to me. Somebody's in all these states listening to me, and I thank them. But I've got people from overseas, up in Canada, England, London, Japan, a couple other places that I can't remember right now off the top of my head. Australia is the one that I'm trying to get. I need to find somebody in Australia. Maybe I need to find somebody on Facebook and befriend them and stuff like that. And then maybe I can get somebody over there to start taking my show and letting people know what's going on over here that we're talking about when it comes to vehicle drivers and distracted drivers. Maybe that's the trick I got to do. I'll give that a shot. All right. So here's the story. First story that I got from KTLA Channel 5 here in Los Angeles. And quite honestly, to tell you the truth, there is nothing worse than when you have a distracted driver and they end up crashing in a horrific hit and run crash, and they try to get out of the vehicle and run, or they try to get that vehicle out of motion and try to run. And sooner or later, you're going to end up getting caught. But the problem is, with me, is the devastation that you just ripped somebody's heart out of somebody's family because you ended up killing somebody because you, of your own negligence, felt it was very cool to go ahead and drive and then be a distracted driver. You could have been drunk, you could have been high, whatever the case might be. You ended up doing something that you shouldn't have. So I want you to think about this. If it was you and your family, how would you feel when you get stories just like this from KTLA Channel 5 here in Los Angeles? And I want to thank them for allowing me to use the sound.
Now to developing news, this time in South LA. 2 people killed overnight when a speeding driver slams into them and then takes off on foot.
Police have 1 person in custody. KTLA's Annie Rose Ramos joins us as she follows the latest developments from the scene in South LA. Annie Rose.
Pedro, good morning. Such a tragic incident. You can see behind me the 2 cars, one white BMW, right next to it, a white Jeep. And Pedro, this is how the crash ended ultimately right here on MLK Boulevard. But how it began, police tell us, was here off of Normandy at this burger factory right around 12:30 a.m. That is when police described them as 2 young people inside that white BMW. We were driving out of the drive-thru after picking up food here at Burger Factory and driving out onto Normandy. That is when they tell us a white Jeep was driving down Normandy at a very high, driving down MLK Boulevard, I should say, at a very high rate of speed, anywhere between 80, 90 miles per hour, slamming straight into that BMW where it took the life of the 2 young people inside. Police telling us more about the driver behind the wheel of the Jeep. Take a listen.
What we're hearing after the collision, the driver fled immediately on foot. There were witnesses that basically gave chase, followed him, tried to stay within eyesight of the suspect, which ultimately eventually led to him being taken into custody.
These are some of the images of that scene just right after the crash. You can see firefighters trying to do all they can to help the victims, that white BMW, taking off the doors to get to them. In this video, you can also see a white Jeep was involved and damaged. We now know the driver of the white Jeep fled on foot, but is now in police custody. Neighbors say they heard the crash when it happened, one describing it as it sounding like an explosion. But she also says this intersection is one that she knows to be dangerous. Take a listen.
People are driving too fast on these streets. They're not paying attention. It's really bad. They changed the whole intersection with lights and stuff, and we still have accidents on this street.
And back here live off of MLK Boulevard, you can see this entire area completely blocked off. Police telling us it will remain this way for the next couple of hours. You can see that tent over the BMW right there. That is because detectives tell me that not only are they still going through this investigation, but they are also waiting for the coroner to arrive to retrieve the bodies of those two victims. But again, one person now in custody. We don't know more about the identities of the victims, but I can tell you, Lauren and Pedro, that surrounding me on the other side of our photographer, Dan, there are family members of those victims overcome with emotion, very upset this morning in this tragedy. And we hope to know more about the identities of those two who have lost their lives here in Exposition Park. But for now, I'll send it back to you both in the studio.
Yeah, our hearts go out to those families. Just so tragic. Annie Rose, thank you.
All right, and again, that story comes from KTLA Channel 5 here in Los Angeles. And you got to wonder why. What is the purpose of driving 80 miles an hour, 90 miles an hour down an intersection, down a street where there's businesses, there's people in and out of traffic, there's crosswalks. What's going through your head? Tell me, what are you doing? Well, I'm hoping that the judge and the prosecutors don't take it easy on this guy. You killed two people. They need to throw the book at him, lock him up, and make a freaking example out of him. Because apparently, you want to get up and run after you killed somebody. Think about it. If it was your family, you would be going, how could this happen? Why are they out? Why are they running around? Why haven't you caught them? You devastated somebody's life. You probably devastated your parents' life now, too, because you were caught. And if you're a family man, you just really screwed the pooch, didn't you? They need to lock up these people. And quite honestly, they need to start publicizing the events that happen. He got 10 years, $150,000 fine. He got 27 years. Whatever the case might be, you need to publicize it, because apparently people aren't getting it through their freaking noggin. They're not thinking. It can happen in the blink of an eye. Do you not hear Gina's statement when she talks about it could be a blink of an eye? Don't let anyone take the sands of time within your own hourglass. Well, those two guys that died, some moron, some jackass, really screwed the pooch and went ahead and took the sands of time within your hourglass. And for that, I apologize. And I wish that it didn't happen, but it did. Let's make an example of these people. Here's another story that comes from KTLA Channel 5. And quite honestly, wrong way drivers, they scare me. And my thought process is this: how in the hell can you be that drunk, that intoxicated, that high, or you're just not paying attention to where you are going up an off-ramp and onto the oncoming traffic? A young family man here lost his life. A father lost his life as a taxi cab driver because somebody decided to go the wrong way. And again, this story comes from KTLA Channel 5 here in Los Angeles, and I want to thank them for allowing me to use the sound.
Hey, good morning, Kirk. We're right at near 37th Street and Hope, right at the 110 North on-ramp here at Exposition Boulevard, which is shut down this morning. Let's get you over to Sky 5 overhead, giving you a look at what exactly is going on the actual freeway. You can see not only the backup of the freeway there, but also the cars involved. CHP continuing its investigation on what exactly happened here. We do know that 2 tow trucks arrived here at the scene just a few moments ago, but again, it could be several hours until this is all wrapped up. Now, this all happened shortly before 3 a.m. CHP got several cars reporting a car going south in the northbound lanes of the 110. Just a few minutes later, they actually got word that the car had crashed head-on with another vehicle. Video there from the scene showing a taxi and a black sedan that were involved in the deadly wreck, though it's still unclear which one was actually going the wrong way. It was quite the scene as firefighters worked to extricate people. Investigators saying the driver of the taxi died at the scene. The female driver of the black sedan was rescued, taken to the hospital, and is in critical condition. At least one passenger in that vehicle was also taken to the hospital in unknown condition. CHP says it appears a third vehicle, probably a USPS truck, was also involved in the crash, but the driver was not injured. But again, you can see there the cleanup now underway, and the CHP telling us a SIG alert is underway here. Drivers being rerouted here at the 110 North Exposition Boulevard on-ramp, trying to get out of the traffic in that area. We'll send it over to Mike Case to show us the mess on the 110. Good morning, Mike.
Carlos, good morning, and we're taking a look at the northbound stretch here, 110, where we're seeing most of the traffic. It's between Vernon and King. Of course, you get off at Expo, and that's going to be until further notice. We want to tilt up a little bit. Although it's going to be a little bit dark, you're going to see some of the flare patterns, some of the investigation here from the air. So you see just how complicated this operation is for the CHP. Of course, lots of points of impact, and that's why the lengthy investigation waiting for the coroner. It's just a mess here. That entire freeway shut down here at Exposition, but they get you off at King Boulevard and traffic building from Vernon. That's it from Sky 5. Back to you.
All right, and again, that story comes from KTLA Channel 5 here in Los Angeles, and I want to thank them for allowing me to use the sound. Happened at 3 in the morning. Happened around 3 in the freaking morning. And I got this report. I was watching television. I was watching KTLA Channel 5 here in Los Angeles. That's my go-to radio or TV station that I watch. I got to tell you, I saw that report, and it was about like 8:30 in the morning, somewhere in there, and the whole freeway shut down. How many people were affected by that? How many people didn't make it to work on time? How many people couldn't get to home on time? How many kids didn't get to school on time because that freeway shut down and all the side streets are all backed up, jammed up, and everything like that? How many people just said, the heck with it, I'm just staying home, I work from home? I can guarantee you a lot, not to mention that somebody lost their life. Okay, this is what I'm talking about when I talk about all this kind of stuff. And yet, it just somehow, please forgive me, but somehow it's not breaking through to people's heads. Do not take it easy on these prosecutors. Judges, do what is right and start locking up these people. Maybe we'll have less of it. And we won't have any wrong way drivers. We'll be back right after this.
You've been putting back a few, and a few becomes a few too many. For a moment, you think about going for a ride. Nah, you live nearby. What's the worst that can happen? You get pulled over, your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone.
There's no way you can hide it. If you drive drunk, they're gonna find you. So stop kidding yourself.
Sir, have you been drinking tonight? Sir, have you been drinking this evening?
Sir, have you been drinking tonight? They will catch you and arrest you. Drive sober or get pulled over.
All right, welcome back to DistractedDriversBusted.com, the podcast show. I'm your host, Howard Drescher, the creator of DistractedDriversBusted.com. And, of course, now this podcast show. You can get the shows on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Amazon, and TuneIn. Just type in the keyword DistractedDB. I want to thank everybody that listens to the podcast show. A lot of people have been IMing me, DMing me, asking where I've been. And as I mentioned before, I was a little bit sick in the last couple of weeks. Hopefully, I'm on the mend now and that I can still continue to do more shows. Also, too, they've been talking about, hey, how about getting some guests? You're a great interview. We need to hear from other victims and other law enforcement agencies and stuff like that. I'm going to reach out to some people in the next couple of weeks. Obviously, the holiday time here, Memorial Day weekend, Memorial Day today. Wanted to let my staff take a couple of days off since I was off for a little bit while I was sick. But I was paying attention to the news. I know what was going on. I can tell you what was good, what was bad. A lot of it's bad, but I live it and I see it every day. So it's not like, oh, okay, this is a new experience for me. All right, so here's a story that I got from ABC 15, and it's out in Arizona. They're a big station when it comes to dealing with distracted driving. They really kind of bring it to you and let you know what was going on. And they talked about a wrong way driver. And apparently, I guess this has been happening quite a bit out there in Arizona. And here's the story again from ABC 15 out in Arizona. And I want to thank them for allowing me to use the sound.
Meanwhile, it was a tragic, deadly day on our valley streets. We begin in North Phoenix, where a man now being charged with manslaughter and DUI after killing a 13-year-old boy and hurting 6 of their family members, including 4 children, after a wrong-way crash. This happened around 8 this morning near 32nd and Greenway Road. Police telling us the pickup driver failed to stop at a stop sign, then drove the wrong way before crashing into the family. Loved ones tell me the Botello family was on their way to church on Mother's Day. 13-year-old Josiah Botello was killed. He was just about to finish 8th grade and start his freshman year. Jana, the mother, and Jeremiah, a 3rd grade son, are still in the hospital tonight. I spoke to a family friend about today's tragedy.
I can't imagine this family ever going forward remembering Mother's Day this way. It's so painful. I can't imagine what they're all going through, especially on this day.
Frank Botello, the father, and Kim, the woman you just heard from, both teach at Hidden Hills Elementary School. Kim taught Josiah, the young boy killed today. If you would like to support the family, we did post a link to their GoFundMe on our website at abc15.com.
All right, again, I want to thank ABC 15 for allowing me to use the sound. On Mother's Day, somebody runs a stop sign, goes the wrong way, ends up crashing into a family that was heading to church on Mother's Day. What is wrong with people? What is wrong with people? I think, in honesty, every 4 or 5 years, they should have driver education. Just like when your license is for renewal, you come in and you spend a week taking a class. That might help. And if you don't end up going in there, taking a class and passing it, you don't get your license. Let's try to get that going. Let's do something that will help protect the potential victims, not the perpetrators. Because right now, I see that we're helping out the perpetrators. We slap them on the hand, send them on their way. They're out there doing it again. And it's like it's not a big deal. But for the family members that lost their lives, it is a big deal. And it's still going to continue to be a big deal because it affects them. Remember, I don't want to die today. Don't let anyone take the sands of time within your own hourglass. And I want to take a few minutes just to remember our fallen on this Memorial Day. Please be safe.